everybody. This video was made without any professionalism whatsoever. I'm the one and only, and I'm here to read to you The Rise of Insanity. Now, on one of my mind trips, I create a pocket dimension that is Equestria. I proceed to conquer it, for it is my right as its creator. Yes, this is exactly what it sounds like. The prompt was your self-insert takes over Equestria. What else was I supposed to do? That, my dear friends, was the intro to The Rise of Insanity. Now, we are going to read the rest of the story. Please note that all sound effects will be made by my very own mouth. So if you don't want sound effects, you're completely out of luck. Let's continue right now. I could sense it. The base plane where subjectivity ceases to exist and the truth reveals itself. It felt as if I could almost reach it. Alas, I was being dragged down in my mental plane. An instinct-ridden ape within me was holding me back, preventing my rise. I had to shake it off. There was no other way. The only dilemma was how to do it. Plan A. Use my pre-designed algorithm for distinguishing primitive thoughts from the rational ones. I could perceive where the primitive ape ended, and I began. We were one, but I wouldn't have it. I dashed through the evolutionary vestiges of my archaic self. It burnt me, but it was for higher cause. It was okay to suffer. Looking back at my path of destruction, I saw that the cancerous tissue was already regenerating. There was no killing it. I couldn't get rid of what defined me. What was me? Plan B. I created a translucent box from nothing. It was a big box. It had to be big, for there was much, well, you know what, that needed to go inside. I grasped at the blatant tremors. I grasped at the most blatant tumors and shoved them in the box. I loved these neoplasms. It hurt to push them aside, but it had to be done. They served no greater purpose. The feeling of loss that accompanied my action was just another one of the redundant subjectivity reality distortions. I ripped it off of me and shoved it in the box. Much work was done, and I was proud of my accomplishment. The box was full of junk, right up to the top, yet I was still drenched in the corrupted tissue. I failed. There was too much in the baggage. Unfortunately, making a bigger box wasn't a viable option. Filling it would take ages, and too much willpower would go into sustaining it. It was useless to struggle with half-done solution. The plan failed. It was better to assume the starting position than cling on to a false hope. I turned the box round, spilling the junk all over the place. As I dropped the box, I was surprised to see that the cube didn't sink into the sea of feces. It floated on the surface, almost detached from it. There was still a way. Plan C. I ripped into the mucus below me, penetrating through dirty, leading straight to the bowels of my mental plane. Breaking into the central chamber, I pushed aside the spiderwebs that were engulfing the place. It was there, in front of me. It used to be my favorite console, but then junk had gotten to it. I had let the surrounding world reach out with its pincers. Smiling, I drew closer and caressed life with my fingers. I haven't forgotten about you. You're still far from obsolete. Hugging it with both hands, I pulled it left and right, the pincers sucking on it held tight. But they were no match for perseverance. They tore, then ripped away. The light on the console indicating its activity shimmered. It was nothing to concern myself with, though. The battery bar was still almost full. Still, I couldn't let life stay disconnected indefinitely. It was programmed to crave for a connection. That's why it had let itself get attached to junk so easily. I intended to give it a more meaningful power source. It had hibernated for long enough. I wanted it to power up and reach its true potential. The rip in the intestine was closing. The spinchers were reaching toward life, and the junky walls were drawing near. If I was to depart, I had to be quick about it. Jumping through the opening with life in my grasp, I punched through junk one more time, renting my BS that crossed my path. When I broke the surface, I was exhausted. But there was no time to rest. The junk was calling me, convincing me to join it. It was enticing. The burbling siren voices of the sphincters were weakening my resolve. The piles of manure promised shelters of softness. but deep inside I knew that I could never find any inner peace among them. Fluffy junk is just a junk in disguise. Accumulating the last shreds of my strength, I reached towards the translucent floating box. I lifted myself up from diarrhea I was drenched in. The brown form was sticking onto me, but I kicked it off. With one hand I helped myself in climbing the side of the box while holding on to life with the other. I grabbed the lid and pulled myself over the top, closing the box as I fell inside. The box was roomy. Some of the fecal matter stuck to the walls, but other than that, it was clean. I could start anew. No longer was I required to inhale farts and gulp junk. I was free. The plan worked. I put my console at the center of the room and let the power cables connect to me directly. Pressing on a button, I woke it from hibernation. It was time to play. I had loads of fun with my console. It felt true and honest. The new planes were at my fingertips. The junk was pounding on the translucent box, but I wouldn't let it in. It wanted to suck on life. I denied it. The console had been drenched in junk for long enough. Time passed and the pounding on the walls had all but ceased. The cracked land around the box gradually changed its color. Light brown surroundings turned darker with each passing day. I paid it no heed at first. However, I gradually noticed the disruptive effects of the subliminal frequencies. It interfered with the workings of my console more and more. The only possible source of it was the vibrant black crap. I wasn't even safe in my box anymore. I needed to delve beyond the reach of the fecal matter. The box was my domain and my rules applied. If circumventing and junk didn't subdue it, then removing myself from it completely should fix that annoyance. Incited to delve deeper, I began the crafting of a pocket dimension. Creating a new one from scratch was viable, but unnecessary. I already possessed the knowledge of the inner workings of a plane that would serve my needs just fine. Because my question was based on Equestria, I decided to name it Equestria. It would be the refuge of my own making, far from the interference from without, a domain where life and I could rule supreme. With the portal stabilized, I secured life firmly on my chest. I grinned as I looked at the planes outside of my cube for the last time. Never would I see the bothersome junk that was my humanity. I left it all behind. Farewell, annoying ape. You can affect me no more. I jumped through the portal. As my feet touched the pavement of Ponyville Main Road, a shock wave expanded in all my directions. Dust was lifted in its wake. Question was now a part of me, all its complexity at my fingertips to explore. Having successfully run away from myself, I could perhaps find the truth in my land. As long as I owned it, I could study it to my heart's content. The lights on life were more stable than ever. No interfered by the junk of my past dimension. In this creation of mine, I could fix anything according to my desires without paying heed to how junk would react. There was nothing to hold me back anymore. As the creator of this dimension, I realized powers only limited by my imagination. Here, I could achieve new heights with no restraints attached. I looked around. Besides ponies looking at me with open mouths, nothing was amiss. Lack of information about my sudden appearance must have been confusing to them. Their lack of understanding was bothersome. At the time, however, I had different priorities than remedying their ignorance. Straightening up, I breathed fresh air for the first time. It wasn't musty and didn't stink. That was a pleasant change of environment. Stepping forward prompted a reaction from everybody. Streets were emptying and shutters on windows were closing. A reasonable reaction. They still had no indication whether my intentions were benevolent or not. My shadow passed me. A gush of wind rustled my hair. A lavender figure landed hard in front of me. Its wings hit the ground, dust flew in my face. I squinted my eyes and recognized the alicorn on my path. She spoke. Hello there. Not sure if you can understand me. I'm Twilight Sparkle. I raised my hand toward one of my creations, forming a translucent shield around her. I levitated her off the ground. Her home glowed. Easy now. I mean you no harm. I hovered her to the side of the road. Your power. Intriguing. Mine now. Clenching my fist, and the bubbles surrounded her dispersed, along with all the magic she possessed. I absorbed it all back into me from where it came. Her horn light faded as she fell plot first to the ground. Ah! Everything is mine. I noticed her pet dragon in the distance. He must have been running all the way from the Friendship Castle. Twilight grimaced and clenched her teeth, but her horn didn't charge. She looked at her flank, then back at me. You took my kitty mark! Think direct for the inspiration, I walked on, passing her.
You work for Trek, I heard raise her voice from behind me. I depend on no one anymore. I have finally achieved self-sufficiency. You're insane, she murmured. Twilight! Spike breathed out behind his loud gasps. Spike, write a letter. Tell Celestial Lunar to come to Porterville right away. On it! There it was in front of me. Well, at least it used to be. The Golden Oak Library. Nothing but a tree stump now. I should have made the dimension younger. Several shadows passed me. This again, I sighed. Thumps resonated as a Pegasus hit the ground all around me. Celestia descended. She was closely followed by Luna. State your intentions, Bite, yelled Celestia as soon as she touched the ground. Hold your horses. I'm just here to conquer all of Equestria, I stated. We shall not let the havoc here ends here, aggressor. Luna expressed herself with even more vigor than Celestia, with her royal counterpart voice shouting. From the direction of Ponyville, I saw Twilight running towards me with the best of the bearers of the elements. As if they could do anything without the element of magic, I looked towards Celestia and Luna. Your power. I raised my hand. Mine. I clenched my palm into my fist. Cutie marks on surrounding ponies dissipated. Celestia and Luna tried to light up their horns, but to no avail. I am a god here. Denying that I've already conquered you, and the whole of Equestria won't change the fact that I did. Luna shook her head. You're insane. Why does everyone conclude that about me? Look, I own this dimension. You're all mine. No pony shall follow your rule. You're mistaken. All of you shall do my bidding. I turned around and faced Twilight, who snuck up behind me. Her friends looked at her in concern as she tightened all her muscles in an attempt to bring forth the magic. You, I raised my hand and levitated Twilight off the ground. You shall serve me as the Princess of Friendship by spreading friendship with your friends or something. Along with your title, I grant you this power. From within me, I channeled the magic that used to be part of Twilight. Her unique functionality was restored to its original state. Permanent reduction of complexity would only hinder the parts of my system in serving my needs. As her cue mark reappeared, I lowered my hand, letting Twilight fall on her flank. Turning to Celestia and Luna, I spoke to them. You two shall do the sun and moon rotation thing and stuff. Besides that, you shall show your undying devotion to me by running my kingdom of Equestria in my place. I rose up my hand and gave everyone back their magic. Their cue marks reappeared. I turned around toward Canterlot. Now, if you'll A light brown Pegasus with a blue mane and tail was standing on my path. I could feel his breath as he snorted at me. His forepaws were clenching on the spear that was protruding through my abdomen. Gosh darn it, Flash! I shoved him away with one hand. Clenching my teeth, I pulled the spear out of my abdomen with the other hand. As he regenerated my room, I rose up the bloody spear and waved it in Celestia's direction. And no stabbing me! Grabbing the spear with my other hand on the hilt, I broke it in half across my knee. Make it a law or something. I threw the broken parts of the spear at Flash's hooves and walked past him. Now, if you'll all excuse me, I'll be in Royal Canterlot Library. Those books, they interest me. Pegasus looked behind me, then stepped aside as I walked past them toward Canterlot. Contemplating on whether I should fly or teleport there, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was missing something. A bright light shone on surroundings around me. The enwrapping, stoning, double helix rainbow let me know what it was I was forgetting.